Welcome back to One Scene, where we take one moment from classic cinema and put it on the couch. I'm Marty Gensius, counselor, educator, professor, and your therapist for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Today, we're in Robert Aldrich's 1964 Southern Gothic Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte. Bette Davis plays Charlotte Hollis, a woman who spent nearly 40 years being the town's cautionary tale, the one who supposedly murdered her lover back in 1927. She's been rattling around in her decaying mansion ever since, and everybody in town has already decided who she is. What they don't know is what we find out is that her cousin, Miriam, and a local doctor named Drew have a plan. They want Charlotte's house, and the fastest way to get it is to convince her and everyone else that she's finally losing her mind. So they build her a haunting on purpose with props. Here's what happens. Charlotte is alone at night in a house that's already isolated her, old, dark, full of history nobody will let her forget. And then things start happening that shouldn't be possible. A head rolls into view. A hand appears where no hand should be. Sounds nobody hears. We, the audience, eventually learn the trick. Miriam and Drew are staging every bit of it, planting objects, timing appearances, managing exactly what Charlotte sees and when. But in the moment, played straight, we watch it purely from Charlotte's side, and Bette Davis plays it with total conviction. There isn't a woman pretending to be scared. This is a woman watching her own grip on reality come apart in real time, because that's exactly what's being engineered to happen. That gap between what we eventually learn was staged and what Charlotte is living through is as absolutely real as the whole scene. Let's be precise here, because this scene is close to a textbook demonstration of gaslighting as a coercive control tactic, not just a plot device. Clinically, gaslighting refers to a pattern of psychological manipulation in which one person systematically undermines another person's perception of reality, memory, and judgment, to the point where the victim starts to distrust their own mind rather than the person manipulating them. It's not simply lying, it's the deliberate construction of doubt about one's own cognitive reliability. A few mechanisms are doing real work in this scene, and they map directly to how gaslighting operates outside the film, too. First, isolation. Charlotte is already isolated, has no corroborating witnesses. She lives largely alone in a house the town has already mythologized as haunted by her own supposed guilt. Isolation is foundational to gaslighting. It's much harder to sustain manipulated perception when there are other people around to say, no, that didn't happen. Perpetrators, whether in the film plot or in a real relationship, often work to narrow a person's world down to fewer and fewer people who can validate their experience. Second, contraindication of the perception paired with trusted authority. Drew isn't a stranger. He's a physician, someone whose professional role carries built-in credibility about what's real and what's a symptom. When the person telling you your perception is wrong also holds social or clinical authority, the psychological damage compounds. This is why gaslighting by a caregiver, a partner, or a clinician tends to be so corrosive. The victim isn't just doubting a peer, they're doubting someone structurally positioned as more credible than themselves. Third, the drip feed pattern. Gaslighting rarely works as one big lie. It works as a slow accumulation, a head here, a sound there, each individually deniable, each one just small enough that Charlotte can almost explain it away until the cumulative weight collapses her confidence in her own senses. That incremental structure is what makes gaslighting so hard to name from the inside. There's no single moment dramatic enough to point to and say, that's when it started. And fourth and finally, this is the part that matters the most clinically. The goal isn't actually to make Charlotte believe something false about the world. It's to make her doubt her capacity to know anything about the world. That's the mechanism that produces the outcome we see. A woman who starts to preemptively distrust her own memory and senses, which is exactly the disability her manipulators need her to have, because a woman who can be certified as not of sound mind can't hold on to the house. One more thing worth naming, for anyone doing this work clinically, the term gaslighting is often traced to the 1944 film Gaslight, which some of you may remember we covered over on Fade to Chat. That film actually predates Sweet Charlotte by 20 years and is the more direct namesake for the term. But Sweet Charlotte gives you something Gaslight doesn't emphasize quite as sharply: the financial motive sitting underneath the manipulation. Gaslighting isn't always about control for its own sake. Very often, as here, it's instrumental, a means to a very concrete end, like an inheritance or a house. Aldrich builds this almost entirely on perspective control. For most of the sequence, the camera stays locked on Charlotte and her point of view. We see the head, the hand, the movement, the same way she does, with the same lack of explanation. We're not shown the mechanics until later. That's deliberate. It puts the audience through a version of the same experience Charlotte is having, genuine confusion about what's real before pulling back the curtain. Notice, too, how the film uses the house itself. Long hallways, deep shadow, objects that could be furniture or could be something else. The Gothic mansion isn't just atmosphere. Its function as an extension of the manipulation. A house that already looks unreliable makes an unreliable perception easier to sell, both to Charlotte and to us. And the sound design matters just as much as the visuals. Half of what unsettles Charlotte isn't seen, it's heard. Footsteps, music, voices with no visible source. Sound without clear origin is one of the oldest tricks for simulating exactly what gaslighting does to a person psychologically, making you doubt whether the thing you just experienced is actually happened at all. I think this stays with people because it externalizes something in real life, usually happens invisibly. Gaslighting doesn't normally come with a head rolling across the floor. It comes with small sentences, things like, that never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're too sensitive. Repeated patiently over months or years by someone the victim has even reason to trust. Sweet Charlotte takes that slow, quiet erosion and makes it visible. Lets you watch the machinery from the outside, the props and the timing and the staging, while still feeling through Davis's performance exactly what it costs the person on the inside. That combination is rare. Most of us will never see the mechanism behind our own doubts laid out on the table. The film hands it to you, and once you've seen it built once, it's a lot harder to miss the pattern the next time you're standing in front of it, on screen or off. That's one scene for this week. I'm Marty Gensius. Same time, same couch. Next scene soon.